Perfect. Well, folks, I'd like to bring your attention, call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone in attendance. The committee has under consideration the estimates for the Ministry of Immigration and Multiculturalism for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. I'd ask that we go around the table and have the members introduce themselves to the record. Minister, if you could introduce your officials who are joining us at the table. And for everyone's attention who may not be familiar, Hansard is actually running the microphone, so you don't have to touch them. And to show you how this works, I'll get it started on this end. So my name is Shane Getz. I'm the MLA for Laxadan Parkland, better known as God's Country. And we'll start introducing our members to my right.
Hi, my name is Justin Wright. I'm the MLA for the charming constituency of Cypress Medicine Hat.
Chantal DeYoung, MLA for Chestermere Strathmore.
Scott Sear, MLA for Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul.
Danny Yao, Fort McMurray Wood, Buffalo.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mohammed Yassin, the Minister of Immigration and Multiculturalism. I am very pleased to introduce the ministry officials here at the table with me. To my immediate right is Echo Ofadike, Deputy Minister. To my far right is Lisa Rodriguez, Assistant Deputy Minister and Newcomer and Multicultural Sports. To my immediate left is Goshia Sichi Vikla, Assistant Deputy Minister for Immigration. And to my far left is Tiheri Keri Kurubo, Acting Assistant Deputy Minister and Senior Financial Officer.
Sharif Haji, MLA for Edmonton Decor, Critic for Immigration and Multiculturalism.
Lizette Tejada, MLA for Calgary Klein.
Rod Loyola, Edmonton Ellerslie.
Perfect. I appreciate it, members. And it doesn't look like we have anyone participating remotely, so that'll save me about 5 speaking points here. Committee proceedings are live streamed on the internet and broadcast on Assembly TV. The audio and video stream transcripts and meetings can be accessed via the Legislative Assembly website. Please set your cell phones to the least disturbing mode possible. We're in the boardroom, so no ringing. I do have to read a couple items into the record, and I apologize for everybody for that, but clerk keeps me on my toes and makes sure everything's official. So fasten up, here we go. Honorable members, the main estimates for the Ministry of Immigration and Multiculturalism shall be considered for 3 hours. Standing Order 59.01 sets out the process for consideration of the main estimates in the Legislative Assembly Policy Committees. Suborder 59.016 sets out the speaking rotation for this meeting. The speaking rotation chart is available on the committee's internal website, and hard copies have been provided to the ministry officials at the table. For each segment of the meeting, blocks of speaking times will be combined only if both the minister and the member speaking agree. If debate is exhausted prior to 3 hours, the ministry's estimates are deemed to have been considered for the time allotted in the main estimates scheduled for the committee and will adjourn. Should members have any questions regarding speaking times or rotation, please email or message the committee clerk about the process. He's to my left. You can even wave your hand in here and he'll probably see that too. With concurrence of the committee, I would like to call a 5-minute break near the midpoint of the meeting. And basically it's a bio break, folks. That's really what we need. The minister and myself, we really can't move around, and the folks at the table. So is there any concerns with having a 5-minute break? Now, considering that once we do that, the shot clock will still continue for the overall meeting time. Any concerns? The chair much appreciates that first consensus that we have. Ministry officials who may present at the direction of the minister address the committee. Ministry officials seated in the gallery, if called upon, have access to the microphone in the gallery area and are asked to please introduce themselves before recording into the committee. So just the podium at the back there, folks. Pages are available to deliver notes or other materials between the gallery and the table. Attendees in the gallery may not approach the table. Space permitting, opposition caucus staff may sit at the table to assist their members. However, members have priority to sit at the table at all times. Points of order will be dealt with as they arise. Individual speaking times will be paused. However, the block of speaking time, the overall 3-hour meeting clock, will continue to run. Any written materials in response to the questions raised during the main estimates should be tabled by the Minister of the Assembly for the benefit of all members. Finally, or mostly finally, the committee should have the opportunity to hear both the question and the answers without interruptions during estimate debate. Debate flows through the chair at all times, including instances when speaking time is to be shared between the member and the minister. So you will find a friendly face. I will nod and smile regardless of what you're saying. And if you start to engage the minister and you start to lock horns, I'll nicely pull you back. The way we run the committee meetings in here is like a boardroom. So the ledge assembly stuff, all the heckling and all that stuff, that stays parked over there. We've got business to do here. The other thing that's very beneficial for everybody at home and the chair, we've got a lot of really good books. We've got the government estimates, we've got the fiscal plan, we have ministry business plans, we have strategic plans, reference those. The chair will know what the heck you're talking about. We can follow along. The minister and his staff will be able to respond to your answers a lot better, and the folks at home see it as well. And best of all, it mitigates the use of points of order. Really makes the flow go well in the meeting. Having said that, is everyone comfortable with the rules of engagement? Away we go. Minister, the first block of time for you is 10 minutes. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm happy to discuss the 2024 budget for immigration and multiculturalism, and will now move into the details of our budget. Immigration and multiculturalism's consolidated 2024-25 operating expense is estimated at $41.8 million, compared to the 2023-2024 forecast of $39.1 million. The year-over-year change is primarily due to an increase in the international qualification assessment service associated with fee increase, and additional funding for the Alberta Advantage immigration due to increased number of applications, streams, and pathways. With this new budget, immigration and multiculturalism will continue to help address key labor gaps, strengthen and grow the economy. We will continue to help newcomers settle across the province by providing settlement, integration, and language assessment support and English language services. And we will continue to foster a province where people from all backgrounds are valued, promote the advantage of a multicultural society, and support anti-racism initiatives. The Ministry's Immigration Division supports Alberta's comparative advantage and helps maintain our position as Canada's economic engine by attracting in-demand workers to fill key labor shortages. We must attract more skilled laborers. This is critical to Alberta's long-term economic success and is very important to support our growing economy. Immigration and multiculturalism does this through our economic immigration programs called the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, or AAIP. AAIP helps strengthen and grow Alberta's economy by attracting talented in-demand workers to fill labor gaps and challenges, and by attracting entrepreneurs wanting to grow businesses and create jobs in our beautiful province. We have created specific streams and pathways for employers to attract and retain workers in key sectors such as healthcare, construction, technology, agriculture, tourism, and hospitality by nominating them for permanent residence. Our AAIP pathways and streams include a dedicated healthcare pathways for select internationally trained healthcare professionals who are ready to work, and accelerated tech pathways for tech workers with job offers in the sectors, and our rural renewal stream which focuses on rural economic needs. In February, I announced the latest AAIP stream with the Minister of Tourism and Sport, targeting the persistent shortage of skilled workers in the tourism and hospitality sector. This is a time of opportunities for our economy. Canada's immigration levels are projected to increase over the next 2 years. Currently, Alberta receives approximately 12% of permanent residents coming to Canada. In 2023, the federal government granted Alberta a 50% increase in nomination allocations from 2022, with further increases for 2024 and 2025. Budget 2024 will provide $25.3 million over 3 years to enable us to keep attracting skilled workers from around the globe to address key labor shortages across Alberta's sectors, and of this, $1.2 million will enable us to expand our application processing capacity and enhance program integrity. My ministry continues to collaborate with others on ministry-specific job attraction strategies to raise awareness among new Albertans about jobs in skilled trades and professions, including pathways for education, apprenticeship, and training. Through our international qualifications assessment service, we assess foreign credentials received outside of Canada to help immigrants and new Albertans fully participate in Alberta's economy using their education and training. Newcomers enrich Alberta's workforce, bringing fresh ideas and skills that are vital for economic growth, while still maintaining essential support for post-arrival to Alberta. That is why a key immigration and multiculturalism priority is to increase access and enhance funding opportunities for mentoring, labor attachment, and labor market integration programs for immigrants and newcomers. Budget 2024 allocates 7.8 million over 3 years for settlement and integration initiatives, such as labor market attachment grants to assist newcomers in integrating into the province's labor market. My ministry further supports labor market integration by funding settlement, integration, and language services and projects, including the Alberta Settlement and Integration Grant Program, which provides settlement, integration services, language assessment, and English as a second language drop-in service. The Alberta Immigrant Mentorship and Innovation Program, which helps remove barriers and provides career mentorship opportunities for new Albertans. And the microloan initiatives helps newcomers, professionals with low-interest microloans with expenses like licensing, training, exams, and skill upgrading. We further address newcomer labor market integration needs by providing mentorship opportunities, licensing sports, community capacity building, and system improvement. These programs collectively support newcomers, ensuring they integrate well into Alberta's diverse community, fostering a sense of belonging. We value their skills and contributions. We created the Alberta Newcomer Recognition Awards to recognize and celebrate our outstanding contributions of Albertans born abroad, each of whom has contributed to our province through volunteerism, leadership, innovation, business, academic, or professional achievements. Last year, we received more than 140 nominations and honored 31 award recipients. According to 2021 census data of Alberta's total population, 23% are immigrants and 27% are visible minorities, and those numbers continue to grow. As we continue to draw people from across the world, we will continue to promote the benefit and value of multicultural Alberta, celebrating and supporting cultural diversity and fostering a more inclusive province where people want to live and work. As Alberta's population becomes increasingly diverse, it is vital for our government to promote the value of a multicultural society and provide opportunities to learn from each other and share our unique cultures. We do this in many ways, including grant programs to support community-driven multicultural and anti-racism initiatives, working with Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council, previous councils on multiculturalism, and our newest council, the Alberta Black Advisory Council, and by hosting cultural events such as Black History Month, Lunar New Year, and Diwali. Last year, the ministry separated its multicultural and anti-racism grant program into two distinct programs to better recognize that these are two separate concepts. We received an amazing response to both new grant programs, and we are currently reviewing the numerous applications received. Budget 2024 will provide funding to continue both of these programs, 12 million over 3 years for ethnocultural grants and 1.5 million over 3 years for anti-racism grants. This funding helps community organizations promote cross-cultural knowledge and understanding, celebrate and support cultural diversity in Alberta, and combat racism, all of which helps foster and build even more inclusive communities. Helping to inform government's efforts to address racism is the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council, whose recommendations guided the Alberta Anti-Racism Action Plan. The plan's first annual report, published in December 2023, outlines 26 actions that have been completed across 25 ministries. We are proud of the significant progress made last year. Our actions are helping foster a more inclusive province. Mr. Chair, these are some of the highlights of immigration and multiculturalism budget, and my department remains dedicated to working hard to attract workers with essential skills for Alberta's current needs as well as to foster diverse, inclusive communities. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Minister. And the first block goes over to the members of the opposition. I know we're old hands at this now. This is like our 10th or 11th meeting or 100th. It feels a lot more. I know this is our last one, but first block is 60 minutes a time. It can be combined or it can be block time. Regardless of which both the member and the minister agree to, you can't speak longer than 10 minutes, and that switches back to the other person. So with that, over to, you can cede your time in this block as well, so you can pass it back and forth. So with that, who would like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I would like to request if we can do combined.
Go ahead, MLA Mahaji.
I would like block time, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, for the overview and indicating the importance and the value that the ministry contributes to the Alberta's vibrancy. So on page 73 of the business plan, the ministry mandate is promoting and enabling an inclusive multicultural society that embraces Alberta's diverse community and supports immigrants to strengthen and grow Alberta's economy. Again, the same on the fiscal plan, page 37 shows that the net international immigration is expected to remain robust in 2024. Mr. Chair, this means that the ministry should step up and provide the support that will enable new immigrants to settle, integrate, and thrive. Because, as indicated in fiscal plan, again, immigrants will remain the significant driver of the growth of this province. However, they tend to face barriers in joining the workforce. I've been engaging with stakeholders and I've been receiving feedback. What I'm hearing is that the support system are not keeping up with the immigration growth. In my conversation with Edmonton and Calgary Settlement Services organizations, experienced the growing wait list for language assessment and support. In fact, the proportions of new immigrants in shelters have significantly increased. Mr. Chair, I understand that settlement and immigration is a federal responsibility, but it is also shared. And I know that the province has its role, and that is why we have such an important ministry. My question to the minister through you, Mr. Chair, is that what is the province doing to address the growing wait list of language assessment, language training, the growing unemployment among new immigrants, the overrepresentation of immigrants in shelters, including women, 2S LGBTQIA+, and other marginalized groups? So that's overall the first question on the mandate aspect of it. So now going into the two outcomes that the ministry has. Starting the first outcome, international talent is attracted and supported to strengthen and grow Alberta's economy. There are a number of objectives, key objectives for the ministry that I would like to have a better understanding, the key objectives that informs the ministry's spending. So the key objective 1.1, which is on page 75 of the business plan, is to maximize the annual nomination allocations on the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program by the federal government and support opportunities for all sectors of the provincial economy to attract international talent. Under this objective, the ministry plans included addressing the healthcare challenges through Alberta Advantage Immigration Program by increasing the proportions of the healthcare workers. My question here is, through the chair, how is the minister addressing this through the AAIB, given that in 2023 allocation of healthcare workers was less than 2%? Rural Albertans need more healthcare workers, and this strategy is not walking this far based on the percentage that we see in the ministry's documents. So through the chair, how will we know that the department's performance on attracting international talent through AIB is tracked? One of the, and again, similarly, key objective 1.1 was to address labor market gaps and support skilled workers retention. The question here is, how does the minister intend to address the retention challenges that Alberta is experiencing now? Our province has lower retention rates of skilled workers and skilled trades than British Columbia, which retains 67% of those who land there. Ontario retains 81%. Quebec retains 91%. And most Atlantic provinces retain more than 63%. However, Alberta retains only 63%, which makes it lower than the other competitive provinces. While under this outcome, let's also talk about the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. Based on the ministry's mandate, the AIB is the key instrument for the province to address the economic migration growth and stability. The department has allocation that changes depending on how the ministry negotiates with the federal counterpart. While the numbers change, usually upwards, it doesn't go downwards. Through the chair, can the minister provide targets either in the percent or in number for different streams? For example, in the dedicated healthcare pathways for the government issued 75 certificates out of 9,750. This is less than 1%, given that the minister has indicated in his opening remarks that how important it is to address the healthcare workforce gaps through this program. I would also like to understand how the entrepreneurial stream is going to address the needs that we to build our economy. And that was included in the minister's opening statement, given that there are 4 entrepreneurship streams that the minister has under non-express entry streams. However, there was only 5 certificates that was issued last calendar year. So the same applies to the other streams. So I would like to see what the targets are and what are the achievements, so that we can see the performance that these streams are doing to fill the gaps that we have in various sectors or within within our economy. So going to the second objective, which is on page 75 of the business plan, under bullet 2, the minister plans to assist prospective and newly arrived international talents with support and services to help them integrate into Alberta's labor market. As mentioned earlier, our retention strategy is not working, especially on the skilled workers and trades, and international talent needs support to settle and stay in this province. Through the chair, I would like the minister to explain what support services are being provided to assist the skilled trades and the skilled workers in our province so that we can be competitive with the other provinces that are ahead of us in terms of retention. Because of when we lose, it adds on the other provinces. So we are losing to other provinces in this case. So on page 76 of the business plan, and then going into the performance aspect of it, the measure 1C measures Alberta's percentage share of the total number of permanent residents in Canada. Alberta's share of permanent residents, according to the business plan, is an indicator for the province's ability to attract skilled international professionals compared to the rest of Canada, which I really debate on this, because permanent residents include children, include seniors. That doesn't provide you a very good picture and indication to see whether you are retaining skilled workers. So my question is, why does the ministry use permanent residents as an indicator when Stat Canada provides retention of skilled workers in each provinces, which would be much better suited indicator than the permanent residents? So through the chair, again, staying with the same indicator, although I don't think that it provides us a better measure when we are competing with other provinces, through the chair, the number of BR from year to year seemed to be constant and did not change. In addition to the business plan metric does not provide the comparative national average so that we can see in terms of even how we are attracting immigrants in our province. Apart from having numbers, we could have a comparative data that shows how we are competing with the other provinces. So if the minister could provide some indications and clarification on why that is the case. So again, still staying on the same outcome, page 75 of the business plan, objective 1.3 is to increase access and enhance funding opportunities for mentoring, labor attachment, as the minister indicated in his opening remarks, labor attachment and other related labor market integration. As someone who immigrated to this province and can relate to the value of mentorship and how it helps, so I'm curious about the available support and had serious conversations with stakeholders. Stakeholders expressed the pressing need for a mentorship program funding that helps labor attachment and integration. Through the check, and the minister provide clarity how the ministry is increasing access to the funding opportunities based on the increasing population, particularly on immigration, and the attraction that we are doing on skilled work through the different various programs that attract skilled workers. So what are some of the increases that will help us with that? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Haji. And Minister, back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Member Haji, for your comments, questions, and observations with respect to our Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. Our settlement and integration programs fund settlement integration and language assessment supports and English language services to help immigrants and refugees settle. We collaborate with other ministries and the federal government to discuss needs and priorities and help maximize provincial investment and ensure funding doesn't duplicate existing programs and services. So I will try to address some of your comments. So the government Opportunity Alberta website offers comprehensive and easy to find information for newcomers and prospective immigrants about the different immigrant pathways and streams under the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, as well as information about relocating to Alberta. For the internationally trained professionals, there is updated online information about international qualification recognition, including a step-by-step process on how to become a licensed and work in regulated occupation in our province. This information is important to manage expectations for those considering immigrating and those who are already here about living and working in Alberta. To ensure Alberta's continued economic growth and diversification, we must create more opportunities for people to immigrate and settle, fill labor gaps, start businesses, and create new jobs. Immigration and multiculturalism supports newcomers in Alberta by offering settlement, integration, language assessment, and English language drop-in services. We also address the newcomer labor market integration needs by providing mentorship opportunities, licensing support, and community capacity building and system improvement. Some of the labor market attachment projects bolster sectors such as trade and healthcare. One project helps international medical graduates to maximize to use their medical skills and knowledge to obtain employment to support skills shortage in healthcare sector. The supports for newcomer integration provides settlement and language support and services to for newcomers while they live and work in Alberta. Settlement and community support services provide eligible newcomers with settlement and integration support. Language assessment and referral services provide English language assessment and assist newcomers in finding education or training options to enhance their language abilities. The drop-in English as a second language services provide English language learning opportunities for newcomers who cannot access regular English as an additional language programming. Settlement integration and language projects fund 2-year projects that address emerging sector needs like system improvements, capacity building, newcomer labor market integrations, and other identified government priorities. The Alberta Immigration Mentorship Innovation Grant supports organizations in delivering career mentorship programs to support newcomers in finding meaningful employment based on their work experience and education and skills. Internationally trained professionals can get support with skill upgrades and licensing fees from Windmill micro lending and Braden Center for Career Advancement in partnership with Service Credit Union. Your other comment was about maximizing allocation. How is the ministry doing to maximize our numbers? The Alberta Advantage Immigration Program is an economic immigration program that allows Alberta to nominate individuals for permanent residence. In the express entry stream, the Alberta Advantage Immigration Programs added pathways and initiatives to facilitate opportunities for applicants whose primary occupation is in demand Alberta and have close family relatives living in Alberta. And for those in the accelerated tech pathway, healthcare, which is, we have another pathways for that, dedicated healthcare pathway, sector, agriculture, construction, and tourism and hospitality, priority sector sectors. In 2023, Alberta nominated 48% of express entry allocation for the tech sector, accelerated tech pathways, 20% for priority sectors, agriculture, which is agriculture, construction, tourism, and hospitality sectors, and 3% for the healthcare sector, dedicated healthcare pathways, through dedicated healthcare pathways. 189 of the 2023 express entry nominations were issued to candidates through construction-specific draws. These draws continue and may help recruit workers to address the housing crisis and construction industry labor needs. The dedicated healthcare pathway showed early signs of success, issuing nomination for 20 family physicians, 55 registered nurses, and 47 other eligible healthcare professionals. 47.5% of the pathways nomination in 2023 were destined and connected to jobs located outside of Calgary and Edmonton. 42%, or 8 out of 19 of the general practitioner family physicians were destined connected to jobs located outside of Calgary and Edmonton. So with respect to in the graduate foreign, your comments about foreign qualification, the foreign graduates and rural entrepreneurial streams, why only 5 nominations were issued. I think that was your comment. Or they're meeting the needs. So just trying to get to that here. In the graduate, foreign graduate, and rural entrepreneurial streams, business applicants whose applications is approved must own and operate their business in Alberta for a minimum of 1 year and meet all terms and conditions of legally binding business performance agreement with the government of Alberta prior to becoming eligible for nomination. Since these 3 entrepreneurial streams were introduced, the program has received more than 100 expressions of interest and selected 70 of those to submit business applications. Those not selected were ineligible. Graduate entrepreneurial stream has received 18 expressions of interest, selected 12 of those to submit business applications with 3 business applications submitted and approved from those selections, and had 2 nominations issued since it started. Foreign graduate entrepreneur streams has received 34 expressions of interest, selected 13 of those submitted by business applications. With 12 business applications submitted and approved from those selections, and no nomination issued until the stream's entrepreneurial applicants have owned and operated their business for at least 1 year. Rural entrepreneurial stream has received 53 expressions of interest, selected 45 of those submitted business applications, with 18 business applications submitted and approved from those selections, and 1 nomination issued, with others still needing to meet the 1-year business requirement.
Thank you, Minister, and I'm not sure if it was the first block of questions or your compelling 10-minute introduction, but we have 3 more MLAs that have joined us for this estimate. So if we can just go to those MLAs to my right, introduce your name for the record.
Jason Steffen, MLA Red Deer South.
Nolan Dick, MLA for Grand Prairie.
Good morning, Jasbir Diol, MLA for Edmonton Meadows.
Perfect. Now we have everyone in the record, and looking forward to the next round of questions from the members of the opposition. Who would like to go? MLA, take it up.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. Would you like to do block time or combined? Okay, thank you. So thank you, Minister and Ministry staff, for dedicating yourselves to this very important work. As we know, the Alberta story is ever-changing, and a critical part of our success as a province is how well we support newcomers and create inclusive communities. So in reference to page 77 of the business plan, 2.2, advance the province's anti-racism initiatives with advice from the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council to address systemic barriers and challenges facing racially marginalized and Indigenous peoples. In developing and implementing anti-racism legislation to build on Alberta's culture of inclusion and respect. So as the Minister noted, of course, the Anti-Racism Council made public its recommendations. It also did the report, which I read in December 2023. And so one of the themes accompanied by several recommendations was around accountability. And so through the chair, can the Minister provide some clarity on the Anti-Racism Advisory Council and how it's being engaged in terms of helping shape anti-racism legislation? For my next question, when looking at the Statement of Operations, page 78 of the business plan, I'm seeing very general numbers in terms of operational spending for the Ministry of Immigration and Multiculturalism. I know that you'd made reference to a few of the numbers there. When I look at the estimates table, they're very general numbers again, no mention of any of the councils that have been listed in the business plan. So can the Minister provide more detail in terms of the breakdown by council in terms of spending for each council? So currently we have the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism, the Anti-Racism Advisory Council, and now the Alberta Black Advisory Council. So specifically, what is the overall amount spent on each of these councils and on the initiatives that are driven by these councils? I'd also like to know how many FTEs are employed for each council and if there's any vacancies. It's heartening to see that the government business plan also includes mention of the work being done on these initiatives, but as the old adage goes, we need to put our money where our mouth is. So while the mention is great, I'm struggling to see evidence of where the monies are actually allocated. So aside from the $13.5 million in the business plan, do we know how the distribution is determined? And in addition to the grants, where in this budget can we see how the funds are allocated now and over the next 3 years? And are the grants tied to the councils by name? And so under Outcome 2, Objective 2.1, promote welcoming and diverse communities with advice from the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism and the Alberta Black Advisory Council, to the chair, through the chair to the Minister, can Albertans get some clarity on this first item? So within ethnocultural communities, we have a vast array of identities and ethnicities and racial composition, including Indigenous peoples. So on a personal note, as a Latina identifying as mixed heritage, I know that within my own cultural group, there's a representation of several racial identities. And so I've heard much the same from other groups. There's that old saying, you know, that we're not a monolith. My question is, why would the Anti-Racism Council not be included in that objective? My next question is still on the same key objective. So establish and support working councils to advise on supports for Alberta's diverse ethnocultural communities. Could the minister please clarify how the working councils are comprised? Are these in addition to the 3 councils that have already been named? And if these are to be additional, how can Albertans follow the work being done? And how will this be reflected in the budget year over year? I've spoken to many stakeholder groups engaged in anti-racism work, and one of the things they've expressed to me is the need for ongoing and predictable supports for systematic change. And I do see that this is one of the goals noted by the government in that report from 2023. So although individual grants are always appreciated and critical to the work that they do, there's also a need to plan for the years ahead to help make lasting improvements in communities. So the question is, can the minister confirm what funding mechanisms there are for organizations doing this work outside of the grants? And my next question is, can the minister provide transparency on community engagement in terms of what's being done on anti-racism? So what entities across Alberta have been engaged? How have they been engaged? And how is this reflected in the current and forecasted budgets? This is not anything that I was able to find in the tables, so it'd be nice to have a little bit more detail on that. And as part of the Anti-Racism Council's recommendations, one was to adequately fund the Alberta Hate Crimes Committee. So can the minister provide some transparency as to where in the budget the funding for this very important initiative resides? I don't see it as a line item or referenced in any of the budget documents, but I know that significant amount of work was done last year. I met with the Anti-Hate Crimes Committee when they published their report. So if not with immigration and multiculturalism, is there another ministry where we should be looking for those numbers? In addition to the question on numbers, I would ask how the Anti-Racism Council will continue to be engaged, if these are ongoing engagements that will be happening, if we have a schedule, and if there's somewhere we can follow the progress of that work. And of course, as part of my role in advocating for 2S LGBTQIA folks, I'm hearing that some of our immigrant serving agencies are actually experiencing a large influx of 2S LGBTQIA folks. And though these organizations are committed to developing their offering in order to meet their needs and serve all of those communities within all of their intersections, gender diverse immigrant populations are most at risk for homelessness and marginalization. So given the rise in hate crimes against this vulnerable group of folks, increasing anti-2S LGBTQA rhetoric across communities, can the minister confirm if work is being done to address this particular segment of the population? I also see that as performance indicator 2.C in the business plan on page 77, we have the indicator referring to complaints based on race, color, ancestry, origin, religious beliefs in terms of the 2S LGBTQIA community who are also racialized. Will the ministry be looking at expanding that metric so that we can see how to properly address the safety of immigrant and racialized 2S LGBTQIA Albertans? And this is one of the questions that I'll be referring to the general government strategic plan, and that's in terms of Alberta missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, the roadmap created by government, which is stated to guide the actions of government across ministries. And so my question is, how has it guided the work within your ministry? And what are we doing to reduce violence to us LGBTQIA people and Indigenous people through the anti-racism ministry? I would love to get some detail on that. And I'm not sure how much time I have.
Minute 23, just up on the wall, it shows the overall speaking time, the block time, and then remaining meeting time.
Actually just referring to 2B in the business plan, so the average amount of funding provided to organizations through the anti-racism grant, it's set at $7,692 per recipient for the next of the 3 fiscal years. So given the complexity and the depth of the issues related to racism and discrimination, do you believe this funding level is sufficient to effectively support the delivery of anti-racism initiatives and build organizational capacity within affected communities? And would you be able to provide any rationale behind setting the average funding amount at $76.92 per recipient? How was the figure determined, and what factors were considered in assessing the financial needs of organizations working on anti-racism initiatives? Also, what measures are in place to ensure that funding provided through the anti-racism grant adequately meets the diverse needs of not-for-profit and community organizations? How does the government ensure equitable access to funding for organizations representing different racialized communities? All right, thank you.
And that's it. Minister, back to you.
Well, thank you very much for your comments, observations, and questions. I think the first thing that you talked about is clarity on Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Committee or Council. So, and I will get to most of, I'll try to get all of your concerns and questions. Let me talk about a little bit about Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council. We created the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council to provide insights and advice on addressing racism from those with lived experience. The council is comprised of up to 25 members representing Alberta's multicultural diversity. Council's recommendations helped inform government's actions on Alberta Anti-Racism Action Plan. The plan, a first for any government in Alberta, was launched in July 2022. To date, 26 action items have already been implemented. The councils of Alberta Anti-Racism Action Plans are helping address discrimination and racism in our province. In 2021, the council submitted 48 recommendations to government on actions to address racism. These recommendations informed the development of Alberta's Anti-Racism Action Plan, government's roadmap to combat racism, promote social inclusion, and celebrate diversity and multiculturalism. Many of the council's recommendations have been acted on. Legislation to ban police cording and diversity training for law enforcement, that is one of them. Performed Police Act to establish independent civilian compliance commission to investigate complaints against police officers. Created the Alberta Hate Crime Coordination Unit and Hate Crime Community Liaisons. Alberta Security Infrastructure Program funds security assessment and infrastructure improvements for facilities receiving communities and groups at risk of racist incidents. The council is comprised of, as I mentioned before, is 25 members, including 2 chairs representing Alberta's multicultural diversity. Currently, the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council includes 19 members, including 2 co-chairs. Council members are recruited through a mix of direct appointments, public recruitments, and reappointments. One of the Alberta's Anti-Racism Advisory Council's member is is cross-pointed to the new Alberta Black Advisory Council to ensure synergy. So we have taken one member from this council to be part of our Alberta Black Advisory Council. The annual budget to support the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council is about $50,000 per year, or actually $50,000 per year. And council members receive remuneration and reimbursements of related travel expenses through Schedule 1, Part B of the committee remuneration order. And so with respect to AROC in legislation, Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council, we are all Albertans, regardless of origin or background. Combating racism is a top priority for Alberta's government. We condemn racism and are committed to promoting and fostering respect and inclusion. The Council and Alberta Anti-Racism Action Plan are helping address discrimination and racism in our province. Council was consulted on anti-racism legislation. Yeah. So the question was around the funding targets established sufficient given complexity of the work. This is a new performance measure for our ministry. The Anti-Racism Grant Program was launched in December 2023, so last actual result is not yet available for the measures. The measures will demonstrate the average amount of financial resources, very small, not for all profit organizations serving racially marginalized Indigenous people and community development organizations were able to successfully access through the Anti-Racism Grant Program. The program is designed to help these very small organizations build capacity and obtain the knowledge, expertise, and human resources necessary to enable them to successfully access financial resources to support their program. These financial resources will enable them to develop existing expanded initiatives for community partnerships, support anti-racism projects, and create awareness of the impact of racism faced by racially marginalized and Indigenous people. Targets for this new measures are based on the program budget, the maximum amount of funding available to organizations through the two program streams, and the potential number of organizations that could access funding through the program. So with respect to secretariat support for all, for 4 committees in this ministry, and there are 4 total committees, right? Actually, there are 4 committees and there are 4 FTEs looking after all these committees. Total budget for all 3 councils is $350,000. And I think I have more or less answered all of your questions. If there is,
Did you want to turn it back to the
I can
member of the
turn
ministry?
it back to
Sure.
them.
And back to the members of the opposition?
Thank you. Yeah, through the chair, I will ask if the business plan and the budget is what I'm looking into in terms of how it will address the problems that I see, the problems that we hear from stakeholders. I do appreciate the minister providing an overview of the programs, but I think the intent of the discussion is more around current challenges and what the budget 2024 and the business plan is going to do to address. So some of those questions I would like if the minister could provide in writing if it is possible. And this is the growing list of new immigrants in shelters, the growing list of wait list, the growing list of unemployment rate among new immigrants, the border retention of skilled workers compared to the other provinces, the indicators that are being used, which is not specifically relevant to the measure that is being measured. So those are some of the questions that I haven't had a response. So if the minister could provide in writing, I will appreciate that. So I will continue on the performance measures. Page 76 of the business plan, performance measure 1C, measures the Alberta's labor growth as well as the labor force contribution through landed immigrants. Despite the growing immigration, despite Alberta's calling, the metric shows that the percent of immigrant contribution is to the labor force is not getting better.
Just for the chair's benefit, which part of the estimates were you referring to, sir?
Referring page 76 of the business plan,
Thank you.
which is a measure 1.C, which measures key objective 1.3. So through the chair, what are the plans that the minister is putting in place to improve the situation? Because in one hand, we see the labor contributions of landed immigrants declining. On the other hand, we see unemployment of new immigrants growing. So it seems that there is a mismatch that we're not putting this into force. So I'm just trying to see what plans are in place in the in budget 2024 to address this challenge. Again, continuing on performance again, government performance measures either in spending or in performance metrics, that is what is in the business plan. So performance measure total number of newcomers supported by Alberta Settlement Integration Program, which is ASIP. This measure demonstrates the number of individuals, newcomers integration that is supported through this program. So through the chair, can the minister explain what objectives this performance metric is measuring? Because the last year, we see the number of populations or new immigrants supported through the program was 16,279. Based on the economic outlook, the fiscal plan shows that we're going to see a spike of immigration. However, the measure is constant, it's not changing. So why are we, the question that I have is that why the performance measure is dropping in terms of targets instead of increasing because of we're seeing a high number of immigration. And again, going in through that ASIP program, that is there a wait list of newcomers seeking ASIP services that the minister is aware of, that the minister can share. What measures are being taken to reduce wait times and ensure timely access to settlement and language services? What are the average duration between newcomers' arrivals in Alberta and their connection to ASIP services or programs so that we can plan accordingly based on what we see? How is the process tracked and monitored to make sure that the appropriate allocation is put in place by the government to support the services? How frequently ASIP program services are assessed or evaluated to gauge their impact and identify areas for improvement? So I'll jump into outcome 2, which my colleague had already touched a little bit, but I'll highlight a few things here as well. Page 76 is mainly seeking advice of various stakeholders, advisory committees that the minister alluded, whether it is the anti-racism, the multiculturalism, or the newly created committee. So through the chair, can the minister tell the committee how much resources government has allocated? And I think you have answered that question, so I can jump from that question so we don't have to waste time on that. Page 73 of the business plan, however, the minister states that recently established Alberta Black Advisory Council is needed to advise on addressing specific barriers that Black Albertans face. And this includes disparity in education, that's what the council will advise on, in employment, in income disparity, in food insecurity, health disparity, mental health well-being, housing disparity, and disparity within the justice system. In my view, this is quite an important file and a significant social issue for our province. And I'm glad that the minister is taking note on this important disparity to create such a committee and put in place. Having worked in addressing this issue in my previous roles, it's something close to my heart. So through the chair, why this is not reflected in the ministry's outcomes and why it's not reflected in the ministry's key objectives. What are the budget lines to address some of these issues? So this is something that I feel like it is important, as alluded in the mandate aspect of the business plan, but not reflected in the metrics aspect as well as in the budget side. And I also have to, based on the ministry being Ministry of Multiculturalism, I also have to make a compliment in terms of diversity that I see on the seat. So that is kudos to the minister and his team. On page 76 of the business plan, objective 2.2 is to advance anti-racism work. In 2022, I think my colleague had touched on this one as well. But I will go back and ask some questions on outcome 1 and the budget allocations, which is, why did the government allocate 25 million over 3 fiscal year to Alberta Advantage Immigration, given that the magnitude of labor market? Because we can see that there is an increase of immigration, there's an increase of number, but in terms of the allocations that are that are put in place, seems to be the same as what it was previously in terms of how do you do the labor attachment, how do you address the gaps that we see in terms of unemployment rates among the immigrations. Also, with page 75 of the business plan, with 7.8 million allocated over 3 fiscal years for grants supporting labor market attachment, is the government truly committed to assisting newcomers in targeting into Alberta's labor market? Does the funding reflect to the urgency of the integration challenges faced by newcomers, particularly accessing employments? And one more few questions that I would like to go back and ask is that which initiatives are currently being funded to support mentoring and labor attachment and other labor market integration programs for immigrants and newcomers? Is there any research and evaluations that have been done by the department to provide in terms of better understanding of the department's performance on these mentorship and labor attachment? What measures are in place to ensure that the efficiency and accessibility of these pathways? Particularly, I'm interested to see the one on the entrepreneurship, because there are 4 pathways, and I haven't heard the minister respond to that, and there's only 5 certificates out of 10,000. So in terms of entrepreneurial building in the province and how this program is contributing is what I'm, like, if there is any evaluation that on that, and why such a low attraction when it comes to entrepreneurial streams within that. And could you elaborate if there was any research or evaluation being done to assess efficiency funding on the labor market? And finally, my final question is that on your performance, when it comes to grants, the minister is not measuring the impact, but instead of how much money is given out. So I don't know how much the average amount of money given out, if it gives Albertans to understand that these dollars are making an impact. So I wanted to see the change that is happening, especially around the anti-racism, the change that's happening in attitudes, the change that's happening within the society, and how much these resources are contributing to that. Thank you.
Right to the wire, well done. Minister, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comments and questions and observations, and I appreciate your comments with respect to diversity. This is a diversity in practice on this side. Thank you for that. Your question with respect to total measures of newcomers supported, can Mr. expand what measures are in place? So I'd like to start off by addressing that. So the measures, the total number of newcomers supported by Alberta Settlement Integration Programs, our ASIP number, or ASIP. So this measures demonstrates the number of individuals the Ministry's Alberta Settlement and Integration Program has impacted through the provisions of settlement and language services to support newcomer integration, including into Alberta's labor market. These are individuals, newcomers, whose needs would not have been met otherwise. The services provided under the program complement different federal government's services, responded to emerging issues, and address gaps in the system of supports for newcomers. In 2022-23, a total of 16,279 newcomers were supported through these streams of services funded by Sports for Newcomers Integration Grants under the Alberta Settlement and Integration Programs umbrella. 1,006 newcomers were provided English as an additional language, or EAL, drop-in services. 4,307 newcomers were provided language assessment and referral services. 9,794 newcomers with settlement and community support services. So this total exceeded expectations for the program, as extraordinary accommodations were made by service providers to support Ukrainian evacuees in the province. Targets for the next 3 years are set at 16,000 newcomers supported each year and are based on historical results and programs, including programs funding levels. In setting the targets, considerations was also given to the continued extension of the program supports to Ukrainian evacuees and anticipated increases in the number of immigrants to Alberta. Our government plays a key role in helping newcomers settle, and we agree that language learning is crucial. This is why our Alberta Settlement and Integration Program includes settlement and language assessments, sports, and English language services. In 2022-23, we provided almost $9.5 million to support agency settlement and language services. We continue to collaborate with Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship of Canada in funding immigrant settlement agencies. We also agree qualification recognition is important. Our Fairness for Newcomers Act was designed to help newcomers fully participate in Alberta's labor market using the skills and education earned elsewhere. The Act helps improve the fairness and timeliness of international qualification recognitions by professional regulatory organizations. In 2022-23, almost $2 million was spent to help build communities' respective capacities and their readiness to welcome, attract, settle, and retain newcomers. The 8 projects have 2 years to complete. Each community has identified specific activities to support employers, organizations, and community members in welcoming, settling, and retaining newcomers. This in turn will help newcomers and their families to find meaningful ways to connect and be retained in the communities. One of the projects is to educate employers, enhance service provider knowledge to create a welcoming and inclusive community where the voices of everyone are heard, valued, and understood. Employers, services provide, employers, service providers, ethnocultural organizations, and all community members have a role in filling labor gaps, stimulating the economy. Activities including hosting employers' engagement sessions, developing integration roadmap, and employer retention and cultural integration guides on building and networking with different organizations. With respect to 2D retention rate, 5-year individual indicator why falling down. Just getting to that comment of yours. This indicator demonstrates Alberta's ability to retain immigrants in the province 5 years after they first arrived. This is important because when we attract international talent to Alberta's labor force, we want to build on that growth so that our economy can continue to develop and grow. Many factors influence where a person chooses to live and work, including their ability to find work in their chosen professions, feeling welcomed by inclusive communities where diversity is respected and valued, and where they are free from barriers to achieving their full economic and social potential. Alberta maintained retention rate around 90% for immigrants that landed in our province between 2011 and 2013. This means that by between 2016 and 2018, less than 10% of those same immigrants had left our province. Since then, retention rates have fallen to 84.5% for immigrants that landed in Alberta in 2015, which means that by 2020, almost 16% of immigrants that arrived in Alberta in 2015 had left the province. While the ministry's work contributes to the results for this performance indicator, we know these results are also influenced by other factors as well. For example, in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic had significant influence on people's decision about where they worked and they lived. Today, inflation and affordability issues are also impacting these decisions and will doubtlessly influence future results for this indicator as well. Immigration and multiculturalism will continue to provide services and supports to ensure we are attracting international talent that matches our labor force needs and help them to settle and integrate into diverse and welcoming communities across Alberta to help ensure they stay in our province. So retention is higher than 2015 to 2019, and I can pass on the question regarding the entrepreneurial stream to our Deputy Minister.
No, thank you. Just a quick clarification on the process related to the entrepreneurial stream. There's a 1-year lag typically before those applicants translate to certificates. They need to operate their businesses for a year before they can now, be considered for a certificate. So there are 70, I believe 70 people currently in the entrepreneurial stream program that have been invited to submit a business plan, and 12 foreign graduates. So 82 in total, but they need to operate their businesses for a year before they translate to nomination certificates.
Thank you, and I think we have answered the questions.
That's very generous of you. You gave back an extra 16 seconds. Back to the members opposite who would like to speak. Sure, MLA Tahita.
What's that? you can, sure.
Okay, well, thank you, Minister and Deputy Minister, for the clarifications. On the Alberta Opportunities Stream, there's a fee increase on the qualification assessment and the Alberta Advantage immigration fees have gone up. So my first question will be that how much of these are going back into the labor integration, given that this is revenues coming through the AIB as well as the qualification assessment? Is this resources going back into labor integration as well as mentorship programs that will address? And if that is the case, how much will that be based on your outlook for the 2024 budget?
Okay, I guess we'll go back to the minister. Is that what you're trying to do? Okay, minister with 10 seconds. We'll just, yeah. The minister is good. I know he's got a reputation, but I don't know who's that good. With that, we'll go over to government caucus time. So there's 20 minutes. Again, you have to ask, again, with the member, whoever may be speaking to the minister, agree on whether it's block or combined, and no more than 10 minutes at a time. So with that,
Excellent.
recognize MLA Dick.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister and staff, thank you so very much for being here today. Really just appreciate your time. I know there's a lot of questions coming your way. Just really appreciate you being able to bring clarity to this really important file. It's close to my heart. I have several friends who have immigrated here. Just really think the world of them. So I think what you're doing is super important. So thank you for that. I guess I should ask the minister if he wants to do block time or back and forth. What would you prefer?
To remain consistent, I think we'll go block time.
We're gonna go block time. Well, I'm gonna throw so many questions at you then. Yeah. So I've got a question here just on credential recognition. One of the biggest challenges many of our newcomers experience is just once they get to Canada and then once they get to Alberta, it's difficult to secure employment if they don't have their credentials recognized. And so I think it's so important what we're doing. You know, they have so much education when they are often stepping in skilled workforce. They have an opportunity to come be part of the Alberta Advantage. They have part of opportunity to continue thriving. That's what Alberta is about, is the Alberta Advantage. And so one of the challenges here is just having their prior education, their skills and credentials recognized by both employers and regulatory bodies. So there's two parts there. And but as I see in the key objective in 1.2 in the business plan, your ministry is tasked with the responsibility of recognizing international credentials. I think this is super important. I see this as a huge step forward for Albertans, and I think we've done really good work. So my questions on this one are, what steps has the Alberta government taken to facilitate the recognition of foreign credentials? I know we've done a bunch, but I would love some clarity on just what we have done. As well as what resources and supports are available to newcomers navigating this process of credentialing recognition in Alberta. You know, we've had so many people move here. Some, you know, my heart goes out to the Ukrainians who have had to step in, who maybe weren't planning on coming here, but they're here. Many of them are thriving, but in my constituency, I have one guy who's worked on as a major crane operator in Ukraine, the giant ones lit in buildings, and he's building swamp mats. So to me, that's a huge recognition we need to continue to work on. So what kind of supports are available for newcomers as they step in as well? And then what can the government do to highlight issues around foreign credential recognition for both for both employers and regulatory bodies? So slightly different topic as well. I'm going to speed up because I think I'm going too slow. Otherwise, I'm not going to get through all my questions. So outcome one in your business plan is about attracting skilled labor to Alberta. And then on page 76 of the business plan, performance indicator 1D is Alberta's percentage share of the total number of permanent residents in Canada. Why was the percentage contribution of landed immigrants to Alberta's labor force so high in 2021 compared to other years? Can you outline the initiatives undertaken by your ministry to attract skilled newcomers to the province? I think this is so key too as well. We have major projects coming who have committed to us, and I think that this is going to be a huge way to fill that gap. Are there any professions or skills that the government is specifically targeting to here in Alberta? Another slightly different topic, labor market gaps. On page 75 of the business plan, key objective 1.2 continues to state that you will work with partner ministries to address Alberta's labor market gaps, including through the recognition of international credentials and supports for the retention of international talent. Super key. On the same page, the business plan directs that the ministry work with advanced education on increasing and installing auto-credentialing for workers from national and international jurisdictions with similar standards. This is super key for me. I've got a private members bill on the table in the House right now. I'm going to hit third reading this next week, so this one's really near and dear to my heart. But how does your ministry work with other ministries to address Alberta's labor market gaps and create ministry-specific immigration streams in Alberta? What work, analysis, and investigation goes into collaborating with these ministries to identify that a specific immigration stream is the best solution? And how does the International Qualifications Assessment Service fit into this work? That's a very interesting one to me. And then how will a dedicated immigration stream help increase the number of workers in specific sectors? As well, just to follow up on the last question, still referencing auto-credentialing and advanced education, what exactly is, for all the tens of millions watching right now, what exactly is auto-credentialing, and how is your ministry working with advanced education on increasing and accelerating auto-credentialing for international workers? Yes, now just continuing on, another question. We saw in 2021 that Alberta saw a huge surge of growth in the labor force, corresponding with a large surge in landed immigrants joining the workforce. What factors led to this sudden surge, specifically around landed newcomers who contributed 123% of the total growth? Just a huge increase. I've got 4 minutes left, so I would like to cede, can I cede my time over to Member Cyr as well?
Yeah, you sure can. MLA Cyr.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the minister for being here. Whenever it comes to our immigration within Canada, we all are immigrants in some way, shape, or form, except for our First Nations, sir. So this is clearly something that is important to all of us. I am hearing some concerns, specifically about some of the federal policy that has been brought forward. Outcome one, the growth of Alberta's labor force and key contributor to economic growth is dependent on the province's ability to attract and retain international talent. In January of this year, the federal government announced a decrease in the number of new international student permits in 2024. Given that many international students come to Canada, may decide to stay here either as a permanent resident or seek citizenship, has your department anticipated any impacts to Alberta's immigration numbers as a result of this policy? Has your ministry worked with the Ministry of Advanced Education in this issue? Do you foresee any changes to the Alberta nomination allocation amounts as a result of this policy? Where this is important is my constituency up in Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul. We've got a very strong foreign student program up at the Portage College. And it would be nice to ensure that we still have the foreign students coming in, because I will tell you that while some of our province is struggling with excess employment issues. We are pretty much fully employed in my constituency. So bringing up workers, whether in every way possible, is something that's especially important. We have the Cold Lake Air Force Base that's going to be bringing in, they're anticipating up to about $10 billion over the next 10 years for those F-35s. We have the Pathways Alliance up in my area. That one there is the carbon capture project, sir. And I'm going to say that bringing in these foreign students, especially in my area, is going to be critical for us to be able to succeed, which is why ensuring that my local college, if it is going to be impacted by the reduction in foreign students being allocated. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm looking to replace my local students. Clearly, we want to make sure there's enough spaces for all of the rural youth that are trying to get in through the programs. But I am saying is that we're going to have a massive labor issue when it comes to up in my area, from trades to professionals in every way possible. And I look forward to seeing this, but it needs to be managed correctly. And I see a real opportunity, especially with the strong Ukrainian community within my constituency also, with the Ukrainians coming in from abroad that I've heard are highly qualified, sir, in a lot of areas. Putting them to work in the areas that they're trained in is all that much more important, especially when I'm getting close to 0% employment rates. So, Minister, I'm just curious on how you've been dealing with that, and I would appreciate that. Any input that you've got in that, because your advocacy for our foreign students are through your immigration file is widely known, and I thank you for that, sir, because I know that I myself value it, and I know Albertans value it. Thank you.
And over to you, Minister.
Well, thank you very much, MLA Dyke, and also MLA Sir. I'll go back to your questions first, and I really appreciate your interest in foreign qualification recognitions and your dedication and commitment towards that, and I am thankful to you for that. So you asked a bunch of questions. I will go in that same series in terms of answering those questions back to you. So the first question, what steps has the Alberta government has taken to facilitate foreign credential recognitions? So I'll just start from that and go on to your second and third question. So International Qualification Assessment Service, or otherwise known as IQAS, helps people get recognition for education and training they receive outside of Canada. IQAS issues certificates that compare educational credentials from other countries with the educational standards in Alberta. So this helps newcomers put their skills to work quicker, which in turn helps strengthen and grow Alberta's economy. IQAS also supports employers, professional regulatory organizations, and post-secondary institutions in making informed, fair, and consistent qualification recognition decisions. Immigration and Multiculturalism has its mandate to work with the Ministry of Advanced Education on increasing and accelerating auto-credentialing for workers from national and international jurisdictions with similar standards. And the opportunity, this with respect to your question number 2, the opportunity Alberta immigration website has up-to-date information about foreign qualification recognition for internationally trained individuals, including a step-by-step process on how to become licensed and work in regulated professions. Advanced Education is leading the cross-government work on credential recognition and increasing and accelerating auto-credentialing for workers. My ministry has participated in a roundtable hosted by Advanced Education recently with various health regulatory bodies to discuss the definition of auto-credentialing and its implementation within the professional regulatory organizations' registration and assessment pathways. Advanced Education's plan is to have roundtable discussions with other professional regulatory organizations to gather information from multiple sectors before determining next steps in achieving this mandate item. These roundtables are important opportunities to highlight issues related to foreign credential recognition. By having these discussions with regulatory bodies, it may help to reduce administrative burdens on applicants by streamlining assessment processes for all individuals, domestically and internationally trained. So with respect, going to know your question number 2. In 2021, Alberta's labor force increased by total of 53,200 participants, offsetting much of the losses from 2020. Landed immigrants contributed 123% of Alberta's labor force growth that year. This was due to the easing of border restrictions and solutions to support immigration and cross-border mobility for newcomers and refugees. Landed immigrants admitted in 2021 played a key role in supporting economic recovery during the pandemic, filling critical labor gaps in the essential services sectors. Over the same period, the number of participants born in Canada, Canadian citizens born abroad, and non-permanent residents in the province's labor force continued to decrease. Since 2020, Alberta has created many new immigration streams and pathways to increase opportunities for skilled in-demand workers to further strengthen Alberta's economy. We have maximized our annual nomination allocations, except in 2020, in the year 2020, when we issued 4,000 nominations of the 6,250 because of the global pandemic at that time. We issued nomination across all sectors of the provincial economy and a vast range of occupations. Budget 2024 allocates $25.3 million in funding over 3 years for the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program to attract skilled workers from around the globe to support provincial labor market needs. Immigration and Multiculturalism engages with partners in Alberta and internationally to promote Alberta as a place to live and work, provides information for workers increased in moving to Alberta, as well as highlights key immigration programs such as Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. Immigration and Multiculturalism also works with Alberta's international offices to support Alberta's international presence with key focus on talent attraction. Your last question with respect was about AIP is, and I can say that the AIP is currently expected to priority process applications received in the accelerated tech pathways, dedicated healthcare pathways, tourism and hospitality stream, and the rural renewal stream. In addition, the AIP conducts draws through its express entry streams targeting occupations in the construction, agriculture, and tourism and hospitality industries. Draws in these streams are also conducted based on those with a close family relatives in the province and whose occupations is in demand, based on Alberta's occupational outlook and short-term employment forecast resources. So, question number 3. The ministry works closely with ministries to address Alberta's labor market gaps. The question was about labor market gaps, including creating specialized immigration streams. For example, we are working with the Ministry of Advanced Education on increasing and accelerating auto-credentialing for workers from national and international jurisdictions with similar standards. We continue to work with the Minister of Health to streamline immigration process to support healthcare staffing challenges, particularly in rural areas. My ministry also led work with tourism and sports to establish a dedicated tourism and hospitality immigration stream in Alberta recently. The new tourism and hospitality stream, announced on February 13, 2024, and implemented on March 1st, 2024, will help attract and retain the experienced workers, providing stability for business to focus on growing the visitor economy throughout the province. With respect to your question, what is exactly auto credentialing? Auto credentialing aims to enable regulatory bodies to review their registration and assessment practices, identifying areas for process improvements. This includes reducing the administrative burden on applicants by streamlining assessment processes for all individuals, domestically and internationally trained. Newcomers who want to work in jobs that require a license or certificate must have their international skills, education, and work experience recognized. Going towards to MLA Sears, immigration and multicultural. The question was around the federal government and involvement with the AIP, and how do we work together? And international students that have recently made headlines in the media as well. The federal government has recently introduced a cap on international students to address.
I hesitate to interrupt, but we have reached the halfway mark. So, as promised at the front end, we do get a 5-minute break. The shot clock will still continue to run, and 5 minutes is it. If you're not here, we're going to start without you. So, with that, see you in 5. And now we're into the rapid fire round, as it's been called so nicely here. So this section's a little bit different. You can't cede your time. It is 10 minutes. You still have to ask whether it's combined or back and forth, or shared time, I should say, or block time. And you can only speak 5 minutes at length and duration. So with that, over to the government opposition.
Start. Thank you.
Please proceed.
And to the minister, would you like to do combined or block?
Do block.
Okay, thank you. So just circling back to a couple of the questions, I know we spent quite a bit of time on the anti-racism councils. I appreciated the detail that we got there. Are we able to, is the ministry able to provide any more detail on what entities have been engaged in terms of the anti-racism council? I don't see any mention of that in the budget, but it would be great even if you can give me an indication of where to find that information. That'd be wonderful. Another part of the anti-racism's recommendations, or council's recommendations, was to adequately fund the Alberta Hate Crimes Committee. I don't believe I heard any detail on that unless there were a lot of answers there. But just wondering if we have some transparency on how much we're spending on the Alberta Hate Crimes Committee, if we have information on the ongoing work for the Hate Crimes Committee and how it will, if it will continue to address sort of the evolving issues around discrimination that we're seeing in the province. And again, returning to the question around specifically supports for newcomers who are 2S LGBTQIA, of which we're seeing a great number end up in homeless shelters from what I'm hearing from stakeholders. Given the rise in hate crimes and that influx of immigrants that specifically in this segment of the population, what measures is the ministry taking to address those needs on an ongoing basis? And again, just returning to that performance indicator 2.C on page 77 of the business plan, where we've included race, color, ancestry, origin, and religious beliefs under what we're measuring for discrimination in terms of complaints. Wondering if at some point we're going to expand that metric to include the gender diverse community. And just to explore some other questions here. So I'm just wondering, how is the government monitoring the effectiveness of the ethnocultural grant program? This is still under outcome 2 in terms of supporting ethnocultural events and activities and building capacity for these organizations. And considering the targets that are set out for the average amount of funding provided per recipient, what measures are being taken to ensure that they actually are building capacity? Is that something that we're monitoring? Another question around the anti-racism grant program. So in terms of advancing anti-racism initiatives and building organizational capacity, how are we making sure that that is happening? And are we going to be providing metrics on, let's say, next year's business plan? And given the relatively modest average funding per recipient, what does continued support look like, and what does support outside of the grant look like for this ministry, for those organizations? From here, I would like to cede my, we're not able to cede time? Okay, I'll go back to some of my other questions.
Just giving you options, member. You can continue talking, give it back to the minister. He can only speak for 5, and then would come back to you, but up to you.
I have a few more questions.
Just keep running and gunning, then that's
Right?
probably the best.
Okay. And again, just revisiting the issue of like the Indigenous segment of the anti-racism piece of the multicultural ministry. So in terms of the roadmap that was created by government and referenced in the business plan and the strategic plan, actually, sorry, can you inform us on how the roadmap is being used and referenced for the work that you're doing? Let's see, there were some other questions in here that I wanted to revisit. this list of questions here. Sorry. All right. So what, this was around the grants, actually. So with the introduction of 2 intakes per year, starting in 24-25, this is around the ethnocultural grants. How does the government plan to ensure timely and efficient processing of the grant applications? What steps are being taken to streamline the application process and reduce administrative burden?
And Minister, back to you for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much for your questions and observations. And with respect to anti-racism initiatives, your first comment and question, Alberta's government condemns racism and is committed to promoting and fostering respect and inclusion for all. All Albertans, regardless of region or background, enrich our province and continue to its vibrancy, economy, strength, and overall success. Alberta's government is committed to working closely with communities in preventing and combating racism. Immigration and multiculturalism leads several initiatives to address systemic barriers and challenges faced by racially marginalized and indigenous people. The Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council provides advice on efforts to combat racism and promote more inclusive and accepting communities across Alberta. Coordinating cross-ministry efforts through Alberta's Anti-Racism Action Plan. Providing funding for community organizations to undertake anti-racism education and capacity building initiatives through the anti-racism grant program. Establishing the new Alberta Black Advisory Council to consider the unique needs and challenges of Alberta's Black community. Anti-racism education and initiatives help to promote welcoming communities where people want to work and live, and to enable labor market attractions, especially to sectors where there are labor shortages. As Alberta's population grows, it becomes more diverse, it is important to educate all Albertans on effects of racism, such as lost economic potential and greater reliance on social services. Immigration and multiculturalism, various councils provide a connecting point of community leaders to provide recommendations on various programs and policies. They also provide a diversity of viewpoints when considering legislation. The Ministry of Advanced Education has engaged with Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council and previous councils on multiculturalism in developing curriculum. The Ministry of Arts and Culture and Status of Women will be engaging with Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council, previous council on multiculturalism, and Alberta Black Advisory Council on the 10-year strategy on gender-based violence in 2024. So yeah, you had a question with respect to hate crimes, and I would share this with you that particular matter resides in the Ministry of Justice. We have worked very closely, as I mentioned before, with other ministries, and this is where we, in this particular case, we have worked with the Ministry of Justice, and I would defer you to see that. So with respect to a question regarding grants, performance metrics, Alberta Immigration and Multiculturalism's grant programs help support grassroots community initiatives and encourage partnership to build capacity. Last year, our multiculturalism and anti-racism grant program provided 3.63 million to 130 community organizations to increase cross-cultural awareness and to promote understanding of and help address racism. Each grant recipient provides a final report which provides information on which grant program objectives and outcomes have been achieved and the reach of their programming, in each of their programming.
Thank you, Minister. And over to the Government Caucus, and I guess the best way to describe the time at the end, the clerk just corrected me, it's use it or lose it. So whether it's in the block, it gets tacked onto the end, but it'll have to be chewed up between the block. Which member wants to go? MLA Yao, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. And through the chair to the minister, thank you so much for all of your hard work and your entire team as you help promote, Alberta's multiculturalism, and it's what adds to our strength. Good minister, what is your preference? Would you prefer to do block time or back and forth conversation?
We can have back and forth with you.
Well, thank you so much, minister. I greatly appreciate that. My first question deals with the business plan in key objective 1.1, which directs that the ministry continue to work to streamline immigration processes to support healthcare staffing challenges, particularly in rural areas. First off, you have just such an interesting job, portfolio, in that you working with several of the other ministries to achieve these goals. The Alberta labor market is experiencing a growing demand for healthcare workers, as you know, particularly in rural areas. And it's not just Alberta. This is a nationwide endeavor that we're attempting to overcome. The disparity in healthcare workforce distribution between urban and rural regions has created a pressing need for skilled professionals in underserved communities. With a higher concentration of healthcare facilities in urban centers, rural Alberta faces challenges in accessing essential medical services. Recruiting and retaining healthcare workers in these areas is crucial to ensure equitable healthcare delivery across the province. Now, I do know that our government is doing things like expanding the medicine programs, as an example, to be so that they're teaching doctors now in Lethbridge and Grand Prairie. We certainly hope that will expand to other areas like Fort McMurray, as an example. But a big part of how here in Canada we try to achieve our goals of getting healthcare workers is we are going international. And I understand that you might have been doing some good work on some other nations, possibly the Philippines, possibly India, as a couple of examples of some of the places we are trying to bring in good staff. We seem to have problems maintaining or retaining the current staff we have, so we'll pillage the other nations of the world to get these good healthcare workers. South Africa has been dealing it for years as we take their doctors. But my question is, what is the ministry doing to streamline immigration processes to support healthcare staffing challenges? And how are these challenges being addressed for rural areas?
Thank you very much, Member Yao, for your question and for your concern and for your dedication to ensure that the healthcare shortage that we have in rural Alberta it needs to be mitigated, and we are doing our best to do that. So, so we continue to help address healthcare staffing challenges through the dedicated healthcare path that was announced on April 2023. In April 2023, under the Alberta Express Entry Stream, we have nominated over 200 healthcare professionals through this pathway since its inception, with many destined for rural areas. So, yes.
No, thank you so much for that. So you mentioned that there's been 200 that's fantastic success, and those are much needed medical professionals that we're getting. And just to clarify, are those 200 mostly settling in rural areas, or do we have the statistics for that, or is it more of an urban choice for these folks?
So 47.5% of the Pathways nominees in 2023 were destined for or connected to jobs located outside of Calgary and Edmonton.
That's fantastic. And it's great to see that, that your ministry is really ensuring that the rural communities have access to these very much needed professionals. As you know, go ahead, please.
42%, or 8 out of 19 of the general practitioners, family physicians, were destined for connected to jobs located outside of Calgary and Edmonton.
Rural Alberta, thanks you, sir. As you know, the rural communities have a harder time attracting people to live and work in their communities, as they don't tend to have the amenities that a magnificent city like Calgary or Edmonton has, right? So that's so fantastic that you've been able to get a lot of these folks to go out to those rural communities. On page 17 of the government's strategic plan, it states that as a way to address the province's critical nursing shortage, the government is working to make it easier for credentialed nurses from outside of Alberta and Canada to bring their skills to Alberta. Again, I'm wondering if you can just explain for everyone just how is your ministry working with the Ministry of Health to attract these internationally educated nurses, and how will you work to streamline the immigration process for these healthcare professionals? As you know, we desperately need nurses. My own mother was a nurse that came from Japan. She got her training at Columbia University in the United States after World War II, before moving to Canada with my father. And back then, you know, there's everywhere in the world needed everything. So, I mean, it was a bit of a different story, but, and again, we've always relied on internationally to grow Canada's population, as well as get our professionals that we desperately needed. So again, my question to you is, how are you working with the Ministry of Health to attract internationally educated nurses? And is there any work that you can do to streamline the process for these people?
Thank you for your questions. As I mentioned before, we continue to help address healthcare staffing challenges through the dedicated healthcare pathway that was announced on April 2023 under the Alberta Express streams. The purpose of a pathway is to expedite the processing time for those workers under that particular stream, in a stream. So we created a couple of pathways. Healthcare is one of those two pathways. We are also exploring adding options for nomination outside this stream to maximize access to nomination for healthcare professionals in demand who may not be able to meet all express entry criteria but are authorized to practice their professions in our province. So with respect to your other question regarding immigration processes, our immigration processes are being streamlined through the dedicated healthcare pathways, whereby nominations are processed within 2 weeks of receiving a complete application, and federal processing times to express entry have been reduced to 6 months.
Wow. That is absolute fantastic work, Minister. That's greatly appreciated. You are working above and beyond to ensure that our healthcare capacity in our province is able to cope with the demand that we currently have in our province. Again, so many people in Alberta lack the ability to have a family physician right now. A lot of people, we need nurses as well, which you've been addressing and identifying, so that's just fantastic work. So important. I wonder if we could just expand a little bit more into the newcomer supports that your ministry makes available to all these new Canadians. So in the business plan, performance measure 1B, we track the total number of newcomers supported by Alberta Settlement and Integration Program, also known as ASIP. In addition, as per performance metric 1B, the Alberta Government Fund supports for newcomer integration, also and settlement integration and language project grants. My goodness, sorry, I stumbled over that. Let me reread that. Alberta Government Funds supports for newcomer integration, also known as the SNI, and settlement integration and language project, also known as SILP, grants to provide settlement and language supports and services for newcomers while they live and work in Alberta, ensuring newcomers have the appropriate supports to reach their economic potential. First off, I think it's absolutely fantastic that our government provides so much to support newcomers. One would argue that these are a lot of in the federal jurisdiction to provide these supports. Certainly in Fort McMurray, I know a lot of the funding for some of these immigration services that supports language and everything does come federally, but I'm really happy to see that we have some stuff provincially.
Unlike QP Prep, we don't restart the clock. Over to the members from the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll follow up the question that I earlier asked that the minister didn't get a chance to respond before the break. In the government estimates page 121, in line item 1.1 and 1.3 and 3.1, I see a huge funding cut to the minister's office, corporate services and multiculturalism and community support. Through the chair, there is a massive backlog of application in the AIB process. The website demonstrates that the department is still processing the September 2023 application, and the AIB application, one of the streams have been, some of the streams have been paused. When that comes to my mind is the Alberta Opportunity Stream, which has had some sort of anxiety and concerns within some communities, and particularly the Ukrainian evacuees that reached out to my office, some who live in Calgary Foothills, some who live in Calgary Curry, some who live in my riding, because this was the only stream that would have enabled them for a pathway for a permanent residency. Specifically those who have passport and visa expiry, imminent passport and visa expiry, because the emergency visas that they have is a 3-year, and if your passport is expiring within 1 year, then that is irrelevant, so you have to get a renewal of a passport, and they don't get their passport through an embassy. You have to fly back to Ukraine, which is impossible. So there has been some concerns and outcry within the Ukrainian evacuees, particularly those who are in Calgary. And there is also talk of what are some of the options for them in terms of whether it is going to Ireland or whether it's going other places when we need people here, and particularly as Sir was indicating, when you have quite a number of skilled workers within that particular population. So this stream has been paused, and it's causing some concern. So back to the question is that so the AIP application that paused due to this many newcomers, the majority of whom have Canadian experience in education, are risking their careers and losing their status, and businesses are losing their skilled workers as well. So my question to the minister through the chair is whether this funding cut would impact this process and would lead to further delays down the line. What's the AIB application process timeline, and how are you supporting it? How much money will the ministry receive from the additional fees of almost 400 per application? Will the ministry use this money to fund the programs, to expedite the processes, to clear the backlogs, or it will go back to the general revenue, which potentially becomes a different discussion of where those funding will be allocated? So, in the same question on the AIP is the dedicated healthcare pathways, and again, I'm just looking into what is available to me on the website, which is up to October 23. There has been only 75 certificates. There may have been others after, but I don't know, and that's why I asked the question. Is there, how is, again, to the question of MLA Yao, how are you addressing the rural needs if the only certificates that you have issued is a smaller percentage? It's even less than 1% of the total certificates that have been given out in 2023 out of the 10,000 are certificates. So my question is how are you addressing that? And then also the same applies to the fee increases. There is a significant amount of revenue that is generated from there, and I'm just wondering how will that feed back into the program to bolster the need that we have, whether it is skilled or general immigration support.
Thank you. Over to the Minister, and 5 minutes, sir.
Well, thank you very much for your questions. So with respect to the reduction in 1.3, I can say this to you, that it was based on transferring corporate services for trade to JET. That's reduction, jobs, economy, and trade. And for 1.2 and 1.2 new structure to recognize smaller ministry after transferring trade. So this ministry used to be called Trade, Multiculturalism, and Immigration. So we have taken trade away. So these changes are with respect to that. Net increase was 2.1 million, 5.3% here over here. This 6.4 million increase was offset by 4.3 million in one-time funding for Ukraine evacuees in 2023-2024. So, so main reasons for 2.1 million increase in 2024 2025 is that 2.4 million additional resources required for the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program due to increased number of nominees, applications, and program complexity, new streams and pathways, including establishing an anti-fraud unit. 1.5 million relates to the International Qualification Assessment Service fee increases needed to align with rising program costs and fee charged by the other jurisdictions. So the fee increases that we have, which are just to literally to cover the cost of the program. So $2.5 million additional funding towards the labor market attachment initiatives to assist newcomer in integrating into the province's labor market. And 100% of AAIP fee increase is going towards labor market attachment. So with respect to dedicated pathway, how are you addressing rural needs? We work with the AHS. Only those that jobs and licenses are nominated so they can work right away. So, you know, the way the immigration program works, people have to be qualified to be able to work, and we're working with AHS and the Ministry of Health to meet those needs. So the question has been generally, in earlier question with respect to fee increases, whether it was AAIP or International Qualification Program, IQAS. So IQAS fees were adjusted because last time they were adjusted was sometime in the mid-90s. And as costs have gone up, so when we provide services, the fees go up. Same goes with respect to Alberta Advantage immigration programs. And with these increases that we have, we are still very comparative on comparable jurisdictions. Our fees are not the highest in Canada or anything like that.
So related to healthcare, some data for healthcare.
Yeah, number of nominated in healthcare with respect to nurses. Number of nurses nominated in 2022 was 22, and in 2023 was 168 or 700% increase. They largely came from Jamaica, Philippines, India, Nigeria, were added to sustainable, substantial equivalency. Number of doctors nominated 2022 was 29. In 2023, it was 42 or 30% increase. So we are doing to the best of our resources and our abilities to maintain and manage all the needs
And with that, back to the government caucus side. MLA Dijon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you through the Chair to the Minister. I hope you're able to hear me all right. My voice isn't able to carry like it was a few days ago. Minister, do you want to have a dialogue or do you want block time?
we can have back and forth with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Minister, as you know, I'm proud to represent the constituency of Chestermere-Strathmore, which is comprised of many small and rural communities, as well as one of the fastest growing cities in all of Canada, and that is Chestermere, which many newcomers to Canada and specifically to Alberta are choosing to call home. I see in outcome one of on page 75 of your ministry's business plan speaks to attracting and supporting international talent to strengthen and grow Alberta's economy. And immigration is almost entirely at the control of the federal government, and provinces certainly work collaboratively with them, but the rate of immigration, approvals, and safety and security are decided on at the federal level. So through the chair, Minister, can you explain how closely you do work with your federal counterparts to ensure that Alberta remains an active participant in Canadian immigration, while also maintaining our province's immigration priorities around enabling an inclusive multicultural society that embraces Alberta's diverse communities and attracts and supports immigrants to strengthen and grow Alberta's economy? And I'll just add on to that a couple questions, if you're able to address them together, is looking then at, again at outcome one, I read, the growth of Alberta's labor force, a key contributor to economic growth, is dependent on the province's ability to attract and retain international talent. So what degree of autonomy does Alberta have from the federal government when it comes to promoting Alberta and attracting newcomers to Alberta? And then the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, which works to attract newcomers to support Alberta's labor force and economic growth by issuing nomination certificates towards permanent residences. I'm wondering how your ministry works with this program to nominate individuals for permanent residency and how objectivity is maintained within this program.
Well, thank you, MLA Dijon, and I'm so happy that you are representing the constituency of Strathmore and Chestermere. Thank you for your questions. So for your first question, how closely do we work with the federal counterparts? I can say this to you that as the Minister of Immigration and Multiculturalism, I am continually engaging my federal, provincial, and territorial counterparts, promoting a coordinated approach to addressing immigration opportunities and challenges based on principles of shared jurisdictions and respect for both federal and provincial territorial roles in immigration. In the fall of 2023, my fellow provincial immigration ministers and I met with the federal immigration minister, at which time I expressed Alberta's perspective, including provinces and territories should have a greater control over immigration and decisions making, so regional and newcomers' needs can be better addressed via collaboration with local communities, industries, employers, and immigrant serving organizations. There should be a greater provincial territorial control over settlement programs designed and delivery, with settlement programs well funded by the federal government. Your question 2 was with regard to the growth of Alberta's labor market force, and I would like to say this to you that immigration is an area of shared jurisdiction among the federal, provincial, and territorial governments. Within this, Alberta has broad policy direction on provincial immigration strategies, such as our Alberta Advantage Immigration Strategy and attracting newcomers through our provincial nomination program, the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. It's very affectionately called AAIP. Under AAIP, we created specific immigration pathways to target labor shortages across all sectors of our economy, especially in key areas like healthcare, construction, technology and tourism, and hospitality, as well as rural Alberta focused teams and pathways. Immigration and multiculturalism engages with partners, Alberta, and internationally to promote Alberta as a place to live and work, provides information for workers interested in moving to Alberta, as well as highlights key immigration programs such as Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. Immigration and multiculturalism also works with Alberta international offices to support Alberta's international presence with a key focus on talent attraction. We focus on priority sectors such as healthcare, tourism, and hospitality, construction, agriculture, and technology. And I think you asked the last question that was around Alberta Advantage Immigration Programs works to attract newcomers to support Alberta labor market. So Alberta's government continues to grow the economy, address labor gaps, and promote Alberta as Canada's destination for jobs. The AAIP helps strengthen and grow the province's economy by attracting talented, in-demand workers to fill labor gaps, as well as entrepreneurs who want to start or grow a business and create jobs for themselves and also for Albertans. There are limited number of nominations available to program each year, and that is important. Our nominations come from the federal government, so they are allocated by the federal government and they are limited. We continue to advocate for an allocation that meets Alberta's long-term economic immigration interest.
Thank you, through the chair, to the minister. I appreciate your answer and the good work you're doing specifically to tailor programs under your ministry to address some of the needs in Alberta's labor market. I want to talk a bit more about the AAIP, and I know we've spent some time already discussing this today. I can see on page 75 of the business plan that 25.3 million is being provided over the next 3 years towards this program. So I'm wondering what specific elements will this 25.3 million fund within the AAIP, and And again, does the AIP fund nominations for all newcomers to Alberta seeking permanent residency, or does it just fund those found through the program's attraction and retention efforts?
Thank you very much for that question. Alberta Advantage Immigration Program capacity must keep up with the new streams and multiple pathways and increasing demand for AAIP services. Application submissions have been outpacing processing capacity and nomination allocations availability. In addition, our rural renewal stream has 83 municipalities participating, each with unique needs, resulting in increased demands on AAIP resources to provide guidance and in-depth assistance on local labor market, immigration and AAP criteria. The funding will assist in adding new resources to expand immigration processing and engagement capacity and strengthen anti-fraud systems. The AAIP funding supports the evaluation process of all applicants seeking a nomination through the program to apply for permanent residence.
Thank you very much, Minister. I just want to ask a question about Ukrainian evacuee support. Approximately 370,000 Albertans of Ukrainian descent are here in the province. We're home to the largest population of Ukrainian Canadians in Western Canada, and due to this, I understand that a large proportion of Ukrainian evacuees are choosing to settle in Alberta. So what specific measures is your ministry implementing to support Ukrainians fleeing the war?
Yeah. So my ministry has worked.
Oh, time's up, sir. Back over to the loyal opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Minister, for providing the remarks and responses. My first question will be around a key element of your objectives, which is retention. There are 2 points. One is attraction, which we talked quite a lot, and the second piece is retention. And my concern is that that is where we will be having a problem. Attraction will not make a dent if your retention is not to that level, because you will be losing people to other provinces. So, couple of things in terms of retention is that the Deputy Minister commented on the retention of new permanent residents, but my concern is more about retention of skilled workers, and that is where we are falling behind. So, recent the council that you have or committee, I can't remember what the term was for the Black Council. One of the things that contributes to retention is enabling an environment that is welcoming, and I think a piece of the strategy around that is creating this anti-racism or this Council of Black Entrepreneurs. So my Black Council. So 2 things. One, the first question is that based on the Languages Act of Canada, we need to attract and keep the percentage of Francophones up to a certain level, and majority of Francophones come from Black communities. So my question is that why the council doesn't have a representation of Black Francophones? The second question related to retention is pieces of the streams that you have is entrepreneurs. We do know that there are a number of studies done by the banks that speak to the challenges that Black entrepreneurs face when it comes to running businesses, basically around the area of discrimination, issues around access to capital because of discriminatory practices, which I do understand the ministry has a mandate to come strategies to address that because of it is a piece of the retention. So what is your ministry is doing to retain entrepreneurial streams that people of African descent that come with entrepreneurship background. The other question that I have is that the ministry invests newcomer integration and multiculturalism quite significantly around in the form of grants. So line point 3.1 of newcomer multiculturalism support has gone down from 9.8 to 5.8 of the government estimates document. When we are increasing immigration, this has gone to a different direction of going down. So why that reduction? The second question is around newcomer integration, which is 13.2 million, and it's mostly the delivery of programs in the form of grants. So my question is that for the past couple of years, we have been delivering this program through grants. What is the ministry doing to evaluate if Albertans are getting value for these investments that are done in the form of grants from an outcome perspective? So if you could clarify those three areas of question. One is related to the Francophone inclusion on the council. The second one is related to entrepreneurship, those particularly who are facing challenges and discriminatory practices to thrive in their entrepreneurship dreams. And the third piece is related to the reduction of multiculturalism support grant, which has a reduction of almost 40%. And the 13 million that we have been investing this over the past couple of years annually, and what is the return on that?
And for 5 minutes, back to you, Minister.
Thank you very much for your questions. With respect to our recent Black Advisory Committee and Council and the composition of it, I can share this with you that the process we used was a public recruitment process. So we advised people who wanted to put their names in for the council. So we do our best to make sure that we have a diverse Black Advisory Committee. We have also a Francophone Immigration Committee with representatives from a Francophone community to work together on immigration matters as well. So that comment was very good, and I think we are fully covered there as well. Entrepreneurs streams are open for everybody who meets the program criteria. People from all over the world can apply. It's not that people within Alberta, but people can come here from anywhere. The entrepreneur stream basically requires, and it used to require $200,000 worth of a business, purchase of a business, or opening up a business. We have reduced that from 200 recently, about a year ago, to $100,000. Your second question with regard to 3.1 was related to one-time Ukrainian programs in 2023-2024. In fact, in 2024-2025, we have new $2 million for ethnocultural grant for it as well under 3.2. And so it's important for us to make sure that our newcomers' needs are met through different means, with respect to funding, with respect to welcoming them, with respect to, having their needs met with respect to culture and faith. We do our best to make sure that we connect with them and we are aware of their concerns, and we want to keep them here. People move to Alberta. People have been moving to Alberta. If you look at the last year, it's just from across the world and from within Canada as well. Now we are seeing a lot of interest of those who are moving to our province, and it's just that the way our immigration, Alberta's Advantage immigration program works, so we have allocations set each year by the federal government, and we do our best to keep increasing, keep asking for increase in those total allocations. And as you know, we are right now in this year we are at just about 10,000 allocations, and we have asked for more allocations, and maybe we can work together, collaborate to make sure that we get additional allocations based on the way our economy is moving here, and based on labor shortage that we have in our province. Since 2019, the retention rate has gone up, and 2015 to 2019 was much worse. And during that time, in the last years, when 2020, 2021, because of pandemic, we didn't need that many allocations because there was not enough interest at that time. But so we have asked, since then, we have asked for more allocations every year. And as we speak, we have put another request for higher number. So it's something that we do to ensure that everybody, whether they, regardless of their faith, their culture, their background, when they're here, they have to make through to their full potential. And we ensure that everybody reaches their full potential without looking at the factors such as
Thank you, Minister. And with that, we'll turn over to the Government Caucus. MLA Wright, you've caught my attention.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the Minister. Would you prefer a back and forth conversation, or would you prefer block time? I'm good either way.
we could have back and forth.
I appreciate it, sir. And again, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to revisit perhaps the question that my colleague from Chestermere Strathmore was trying to get out right at the end with regards to the Ukrainian evacuee support. With approximately 370,000 Albertans of Ukrainian descent, Alberta is home to the largest population of Ukrainian Canadians, specifically in Western Canada. And due to this, I understand a large portion of Ukrainian evacuees have chosen to settle in Alberta. What specific measures are you implementing within your ministry to support Ukrainians fleeing the war? And can you highlight any additional measures provided across our government ministries to support these folks? And is there a pathway for Ukrainian evacuees to seek remaining in Alberta?
Thank you very much for that very important questions. I can share this with you that a couple of months back, actually last summer, our doorbell rang, and when I opened up the door, there was a young couple in front of our door. And they asked me if we needed our windows cleaned. And we had actually just done our windows, but so I asked them a little bit more. And I discovered that this young couple, probably in early 30s, they had just arrived here about a month and a half ago, before that time. And they were from Ukraine, and they were up and running on their own business. They set up a business right after they came here. So these are the people who they will do anything to keep going on their own. But we do need to provide help that we need to provide them under these very difficult situations. So my ministry has worked closely with the federal government, business communities, the Ukrainian Canadian community, and settlement organizations to ensure evacuees have access to information and supports that will help them settle and integrate into our communities. Our government quickly came together to implement a cross-ministry supports and services to help Ukrainian evacuees arriving in Alberta. Immigration and Multiculturalism itself has prioritized and waived service fee for permanent residency applications through the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, provided settlement agencies with temporary emergency grants for hotel accommodation for Ukrainian evacuees to meet critical gaps not met by federal programs, developed the Ukrainian Evacuee Support Program to provide funding for language and employment supports and build capacity among service providers to support Ukrainian evacuees in Alberta. Your second question, Alberta's government continues to support Ukrainian and welcomes evacuees. We continue to monitor the situation and work closely with Ukrainian Canadian communities and settlement organizations. In 2022-2023, Alberta provided nearly 48 million in cross-government service, including settlement and language supports, emergency financials and housing assistance, education, as well as healthcare. Ukrainian evacuees continue to have access to many government supports and services, finding licensed childcare, income support, healthcare, employment, settlement, and language supports, school enrollments, childcare subsidy, among other things. Since February 2024, the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program has reimbursed fees for and expedited applications received from Ukrainian nationals across all streams and pathways of the program. These options include federal programs such as Express Entry and the recently introduced policy to help families affected by the Russian invasion of Ukraine apply for permanent residence and reunite in Canada if they have qualifying Canadian family relatives. So I hope I have answered all of your questions. And so this is an important matter in our ministry, and we are taking it very seriously and doing our best to make sure that we provide all the help that they need to be, if they want to stay here, to be successful Albertans and successful Canadians. And we will continue to do our part to meet their needs and facilitate them into workforce here. I know many of them they just want to have their own businesses right away. They are entrepreneurial type people, and most of them are very educated professionals as well. So it's unfortunate that they had to leave their country under the circumstances they're in, and our help and support is available for them. And the share that we receive in our province here of Ukrainian is based, they come to Canada, and the federal government, gives based on percentage of population or whatever, their share. But most of them, I understand, a lot of them want to come to.
I know you're on a roll. I hesitate to interrupt, but you have chewed up 5 minutes. It would go back to the member.
Thank you, Minister, and through the chair. It would be amiss for me not to bring up this next topic. This is something that I've heard from a number of my constituents, both as consultants but also as new to Canada, recently transitioned to Alberta folks. Immigration fraud is a topic of conversation that gets brought up pretty regularly. With increased demand of skilled workers moving to Alberta, we hear incidents in my constituency, both of fraudulent employers and applications taking advantage of immigration opportunities. What is your ministry doing to protect the integrity of our immigration programs here in Alberta? What are the resources requirements for these initiatives? What's been the biggest takeaway you've seen over this first year for this unit? And what will happen if an employer or applicant is caught breaking these requirements that really put other folks at a disadvantage?
Yeah, thank you for another good question. The AAIP continues to work with other government departments and the federal government to investigate and address fraud. AAIP's existing anti-fraud tools include employer sites, visits, and verifying through multiple sources job offers. Also, reference letters. With respect to reference letters, we want to make sure that they are authentic, and working with the other organizations to determine legitimacy of businesses or immigration representative connected with the application. While the AAIP already has anti-fraud mechanism in place, we are adding extra measures to increase protections and safeguards for immigrants. We are improving fraud detection by adding specialized fraud investigation experts through additional funding provided to the program. New resources will strengthen anti-fraud systems, develop comprehensive federal systems, and respond to requests for reconsiderations. The biggest takeaway I expect from new resources focused on anti-fraud in its first year are to strengthen and quicken the place of information sharing with applicants, enforcement authorities on outcomes of investigations resulting in confirmed fraud. When the AAIP confirms fraud or misrepresentation, applicants are prohibited from reapplying to program for up to 5 years. The AAIP also works closely with the federal government and with the Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction and the legal services to determine the extent to which additional legal actions may be taken to hold bad actors accountable for their misconduct.
Well, thank you, Minister, for taking those really key steps to making sure that we're protecting our newcomers to Canada and those looking to move to Alberta. So I appreciate you taking the time for those answers.
Right to the wire. Well done, gentlemen. And over to the members of the opposition.
And I'm going to assume, Minister, that we're still doing block time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. So I'm just going to ask a couple of questions here based on outcome 1 around newcomer populations. So through the chair, why is the number of newcomers supported by the Alberta Settlement and Integration Program decreased from 16,279 in 2022-23 to now 16,000, especially considering the forecasted increase in nominations for the AAIP. My next question from there is based on the statement of operations. So with the decrease in funding allocated to settlement this year, how will this impact the timeline and accessibility of services provided to newcomers? From there, will programs have to make adjustments to prioritize essential services or streamline services? Through the chair as well, are there sufficient staff members within ASIP to meet the demand for settlement and language services? Additionally, I'm actually hearing from some of the settlement organizations locally that they're very limited in resources, that they're strained to be able to provide language supports, housing supports, even just referrals to other agencies to support just their existing immigrant population, and on top of that are having to support refugee populations in light of this growing affordability crisis. They're seeing that many of the refugee populations are facing houselessness, and just an array of other issues that make them more vulnerable. They aren't actually provided funding to support refugee populations. And so I'm wondering if, you know, on top of some of the funding I'm sure comes in federally, if the province will be revisiting funding to these organizations, given the strains that they're already facing. If we are due to see an increase or any revisiting of funding in terms of refugee folks in our communities, because they still are members of our communities and need support. The other question is are there any vacancies or staffing shortages affecting our newcomer program's ability to effectively support newcomers? We are hearing from a lot of nonprofits that you know, they're also strained in terms of budgets and being able to provide the services necessary to their populations. My next question is again sort of returning to the Anti-Racism Advisory Council. So given that we haven't had any more recommendations or guidance since 2021, how is the government planning to address the evolving challenges faced by our communities? What alternative mechanisms or strategies are being considered to ensure that anti-racism initiatives are responsive to new issues that are arising? And what measures are being taken to ensure that voices and perspectives of affected communities are central to the legislative process? Let's see how much time I have. All right, so given that we have stagnant targets referred to in the business plan for the average amount of funding provided to organizations through ethnocultural grants over the next 3 years, can you explain why there hasn't been an increase in funding to meet the growth of need, and what steps will the government be taking to support outside of grants the organizations and what their needs are? How will they be providing, say, referrals to supports along those lines? My next question is, in terms of the mandate, I know that the mandate is to collaborate with other ministries. So can the minister provide some transparency around collaboration with key ministries where implementation of anti-racism, the Anti-Racism Council's recommendations would have long-lasting implications? Specifically, I'm thinking about collaborations with Indigenous Affairs, but especially given the announcement of a rollout of a new social studies curriculum, what the collaboration has been like with the Department of Education.
And with that, back over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Member Tejeda, for your questions. With respect to your first question regarding numbers that is slightly down for ASIP, so this measure demonstrates the number of individuals the Ministry's Alberta Settlement and Integration Program has impacted through the provision of settlement and language services to support newcomer integration, including to Alberta's labour market. These are individuals, newcomers, whose needs would not have been met otherwise. The service providers under the program complement different federal government services, respond to emerging issues, and address gaps in the system of supports for newcomers. In 2022-23, a total of 16,279 newcomers were supported through 3 streams of services funded by Supports for Newcomers Integration Grant under the Alberta Settlement and Integration Program umbrella. This total exceeded the expectation for the program, as extraordinarily accommodations were made by service providers to support our Ukrainian evacuees in the province. The targets for the next 3 years are set at 16,000 newcomers supported each year and are based on historical results and program funding levels. with respect to ethnocultural grant programs. This is a new performance measure for the ministry. The ethnocultural grant programs was launched in December 2023. So a last actual result is not yet available for the measures. This measure will demonstrate the average amount of financial resources small not-for-profit ethnoculturals, indigenous community and faith-based organizations were able to successfully access through the ethnocultural grant program. The program is designed to help these small organizations build capacity and obtain the knowledge, expertise, and the human resources necessary to enable them to successfully access financial resources to support their work. These financial resources will enable them to deliver ethnocultural events and activities and continue to build their capacity to support the people and communities they represent. There is an increase of $2 million in 2024, 2025, and also 2025, 2026 years. Regarding anti-racism grant program, this is a new performance measure for the ministry. Again, the anti-racism grant program was launched in December 2023, so a last actual result is not yet available for the measures. The program design is to help these very small organizations build capacity and obtain the knowledge, expertise, and human resources necessary to enable them to successfully access financial resources to support their program. These financial resources will enable them to develop existing and expanded initiatives for community partnership, supporting anti-racism projects, and create awareness of the impact of racism faced by racially marginalized and indigenous people. With respect to collaboration with other ministries and councils, immigration and multiculturalisms, various councils provide connecting points to community leaders to provide recommendations on various programs and policies. They also provide a diversity of viewpoints when considering legislation. The Ministry of Education has engaged with the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council and Premier's Council on Multiculturalism in developing curriculum in the social studies. And so it's an important aspect to continue to ask for us to work with other ministries.
And with that, we're over to Government Caucus, and I see MLA Stephan.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you, Chair, to the Minister, would he be agreeable to share time for this 4.5 minutes?
Yes. Back and forth.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Minister. And maybe just to start out, we had a great experience a couple weeks ago at Red Deer Polytechnic. The Minister came and met with young adults who were pursuing their education from outside of Canada who had come to Red Deer Polytechnic. And for me, Minister, that was such a wonderful meeting, meeting those young men and young women who came to Alberta, such a blessed place, a place of freedom and an opportunity. And Minister, just before I begin my questions as well, I remember your maiden speech, Minister, when you first became an MLA, and I think you're a great example of an individual who came to Alberta, who worked hard, prospered, and succeeded. And I appreciate, I think, your lived experience as you seek to serve those who visit Alberta. And I certainly have a lot of respect for you and any individual or family who comes to Alberta. It's such a great land we're blessed to live in. Minister, I just want to ask about a little bit of a high-level question. Outcome 1 in the business plan states that the ministry works to address Alberta's labor market needs through strategies to attract, support, and retain immigrants to the province. And my question is this. In pursuing this outcome, I know that Quebec has more autonomy over their immigration, the execution of what I would expect would be a very similar desired policy. I'm wondering what strengths you see with having the federal government administer or be more involved in the immigration versus Quebec's approach, and perhaps some of the opportunities that would be there to further this outcome if we had more autonomy and control over our immigration as opposed to having to work with the federal government as much on it. I know Quebec seems to be pursuing their own immigration. They seem to be happy with it because I don't see them going back to the federal government and asking them to start controlling it more. So I'm just wondering, from kind of our market needs, what opportunities would you see if we had more control of our immigration like Quebec?
Thank you very much, MLA Stepan, for your compliments at the beginning, and I really appreciate your work that you do in your area to help our newcomers. So thank you very much. It's good to see you at the Radio College. With respect to our involvement with federal government to get more control on our immigration system, we have been very persistent in our ministerial meetings, making that request. And that if we have more control, we can better serve our newcomers here by working with the immigrant helping agencies here, because we understand how they work. We are locally on ground, and we can do a lot better if we had a little bit more control over immigration system. And your comparison of Quebec versus the rest of Canada, that's a unique thing. We would like to have as many provisions that Quebec has in Alberta as well in our immigration system, but we continuously ask for better control. It's not only us; other provinces are doing the same thing. And in our upcoming meeting, whenever it happens at the end of this year, we will repeat that as well. We will be. I think our program can improve a lot better if we have control over this.
Apologize for the interruption, but I need to advise the committee the time for consideration of the ministry's estimate is concluded. And since this is our last meeting, I would be remiss if I didn't thank everyone from the LAO staff, the Hansard, the LAS, members, ministers, support staff for the ministers. Thank you so very much. So 9 meetings within 7 days. We only had 1 point of order called, which was overruled. Thank everybody for practicing the boardroom policies. That's how we get effective work done. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.